Welcome to the Deconstructed Woman podcast, a podcast about breaking down barriers between women, exploring and sharing perspectives of each individual woman's experience, and discovering what we have in common and what makes us different. Hosted by Elisa Marie and Jojy.
Welcome to the next episode of the Deconstructed Woman. I wanted to let everybody know that this particular subject or topic came to me after finding out that my sister-in-law's mom had passed away. And so it is a deeply personal conversation. We're going to be talking about everyday heroes that pass through our lives. We may not even know that they are a hero when we meet them, but upon later reflection, we may find out that they impacted us in many ways. And so today's discussion is going to talk about women that we meet, have met in our lives that have shaped us or impacted us in ways that that we can now identify. And so I'm going to kick it off talking about my sister-in-law's mom. Her name is Anakuti, and she is a woman who was born and raised in India, spent all of her life in India. She came to visit the U.S. When my sister-in-law came to the U.S. a couple years after that. Her mom came to visit, and I met her for a very brief time. I live in Chicago. They live in, my sister-in-law and my family live in Michigan. So I just gone over there to meet her and greet her, and just was really, really amazed by how she impacted me. And so when I think about an everyday hero, I think about somebody who I had an interaction with, and she really changed my thinking, my biases, and other things. And so, for example, what her mom did was she has been known to be a teacher. She impacted a lot of different people. I think that only sadly when people pass do we hear about all the wonderful things that they have done. But Ronnie's mom, was touted as being a great teacher, influencer, really supporting people who were the underdog and really just needed some recognition and some confidence to build them to who they could be. And so my sister-in-law told me that her funeral was an extraordinary experience because of all the pouring of stories of how her mom had helped people that she wasn't even aware of. But the way that she impacted me is that I had a very traditional idea of what an older Indian woman is like. To the best of my knowledge, Ronnie's mom was a stay-at-home mom. She took care of, I think she had 6 children, and her primary job was to raise the children and take care of the home. And her husband was a businessman and such. And sadly, when my sister-in-law was ending high school, her father suddenly passed away. And then now her mom was playing the role of both business owner and raising children, and really had her hands full with a lot of things going on. But what really struck me was her passion and her desire to try something different. It was like she was such a innovator in so many ways. She had just been introduced to the microwave in the U.S. and this was about probably 20 years ago, and so she didn't know what a microwave was. I don't think, maybe she did, but she didn't know everything it could do, and she was trying to figure out the way to outsmart this microwave. And she wanted to make a very traditional Indian meal, but she knew that the microwave would do it faster. But she was trying to figure out how to do that because, of course, you can't put aluminum into a microwave. So she was playing with it. And as silly as this whole example sounds, it really struck me about a woman who was trying to rethink something, trying to come up with a better way. And it really made me think about how much I take for granted. Like, I don't think outside the box. I wasn't a troubleshooter. I wasn't a critical thinker as much as I would have liked. And in that moment, she absolutely changed who I was and the way I looked at now approaching a problem, and why not think about a better way to do something. And ever since that experience with her, I have tried to become more like her, channel her. I'm only sorry that I never had the opportunity to say that to her before she passed, because of all the people that I have met in my life, I probably knew her for the shortest amount of time face to face, but yet she rewired my thinking in some extraordinary ways. And so I wanted to dedicate this episode to her from my heart, because she was truly a hero to me and allowed me to see bigger outside of myself. And it was the perfect time in my life for somebody to help me with that. And so I wanted to not only honor her memory by talking about everyday heroes, but also acknowledge that we do meet some extraordinary women in our lives as we pass. Sometimes they're in our life for a long time. Sometimes they're in our life for a short amount of time. And, but if you can learn from them and incorporate that learning into our lives, then that is keeping their memory, their legacy, that interaction alive. So this is a very meaningful discussion to me, and I'm so grateful that that experience led me to this topic. I sort of sprung it on Elisa, and she was kind enough to indulge me with this conversation. But I think it got both of us thinking about the different women in our lives. So, Elisa, who is on the top of your list in terms of an everyday hero that you don't sing praises enough about?
Well, I think for me, I struggled initially with this topic because I think that we initially had said, okay, who are maybe like the top three people who have influenced us? And my number one person was my mom. I think that I could not be the person that I am without her. I'm getting like emotional because I felt your emotion through you talking about this amazing woman. And I think that is something that I hope everybody gets an to have a woman, whether it's a strong woman or a woman who has some sort of influence on you, but to just have that experience of having a great woman in your life. And I think that I was blessed to have quite a few, but I struggled initially to think, okay, so my mom, hands down, that's the number one person I thank for who I am. But after that, the next person that came to mind was my grandmother, and these two women, that's both of my grandmothers were very influential, but I had more time with one than the other because one died earlier. And so I'm talking about my grandma Pina first, because she was just such a good person and she had such a good soul, and that's something that I try to encompass every day if I can. If I can.
Is this your maternal or your paternal grandmother?
So it's my paternal grandmother. I had more time with my maternal grandmother, my grandma Lisa, who I'm named after. I had more time with her, and so as you were talking, I was thinking the first person that comes to mind is my grandma Pina, who is my dad's mom, because I didn't have as much time with her, but the time that I did have, kind of like what you were saying, was so impactful. I was like, okay, I have my three people, my mom and my two grandmothers. My grandmothers are now deceased, and my mom is just my stronghold. And so again, I think that it's just so important to have these people in your life and to be able to recognize them. And I hope that I can continue to, like you said, carry on that legacy and carry down the things that they've taught me to my girls, who will hopefully carry it down to their children and their children's children, and kind of continue that cycle, because I think that it's so important for us to recognize when we have those amazing women in our lives and how they impact us. So I mean, I don't know. I could probably talk for like a very long time about their impact on me, these three amazing women. But I will say, like, hands down, like I said, my mom influenced me because she's a very strong, wonderful woman who just knows what she wants and goes and gets it. And I am exactly like her. And so, I mean, I think that that's, in a nutshell, we could probably talk about all the different characteristics that she has, but I know that you talked about your daughter being, and I think that I don't have all of my mom's characteristics, but I have quite a few of them. And it's funny because I talk to her on a daily basis, and every time we talk, I'm, learning more from her, even, in my late 30s, almost to my 40s. I learn something new each day, and I think that that's really important, and I'm so grateful for the relationship that I have with her, because she is teaching me, probably will be teaching me into my old age, hopefully, the impact that she has long term.
She sounds wonderful. And, she has definitely raised a very strong, ethical, wonderful woman, mother, spouse, wife, in you. And so she's done an amazing job. When you were talking about your mom, I started thinking about my mom, and I don't want to take anything away from my mom in terms of, this conversation being initiated by my sister-in-law's mom. But that's what really prompted this discussion. But my mom was a hero in her own right. And sadly, I don't think that she ever talked about the trait that I saw in her, and it was really more her courage and her strength. And Because most people who know me know the story, but my family came to the US because my mom was a trained nurse in India, and in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, the US needed nursing staff, and so they were recruiting people from different parts of the world. And my father had just ended a 20-year career in the Air Force in India, and thought that that was a good plan for our family's future, and really encouraged, maybe even pressured my mom to take a job in the US, and that the rest of the family would follow her. And so she was not raised to be, a courageous woman. She was the eldest of her family, and she had done a lot of things to help stabilize her family. And so she was already on that journey. And then when that situation and the opportunity presented itself, she came to the US by herself in the middle of winter with no winter clothing, and made it work. And as a result of that, we all have, what we have in our lives today in terms of, comfort and education and everything that people aspire when they leave their hometown and they come to a foreign country or United States to build a new future for their family. And so my mom had a lot of courage, and I only wish that I had seen more of that throughout her life. I know that she did that by herself. And the other thing I would advise you, and this is a really hard thing to talk about, but I know that it was the same for my sister-in-law, and it was definitely the same for me. And I tell people who still have their moms alive with them to really learn about their parent, not as a parent, but as a woman, and as an adult, because they are amazing people. And somehow or other, we get into these roles, family roles, where, she's my mother, I'm her daughter, and that's the lens that we see each other with. But unfortunately, or fortunately, at my mom's wake, all these people I had never seen before came to my mom's wake, and they were talking about her and talking about how wonderful she was, and that, she was a faithful woman, and that she would do anything for anybody, and all these stories of young nurses that she raised in her career. It just, I mean, I hate to say this, but I was like, who are they talking about? And I think that I'm disappointed in myself that I did not get to know my mom as a person, as a human being, as somebody who contributed to this world in so many ways, because I was limited by these blinders of being in a parent child relationship with her. And I wish that knowledge on to everybody, to know that, our parents or our moms are incredibly special people who are an accumulation of their life experiences and take every opportunity to know who they were as children, as teenagers, as young adults, before they got married and became a partner to your parent, who they were in their 20s and 30s, what their dreams were, what their accomplishments were, and who they're becoming and what their goals are now as they're in their later phases of their life. Because I did not have those conversations with my mom, and I was robbed of those conversations because my mom had dementia.
Mm.
And I had a glimmer of that. Believe it or not, I actually took advantage of dementia because when my mom did have dementia, she spoke a lot about her younger years with abandon. She talked about going to nursing school, leaving her family, having, to sort of be on her own for the first time. And I got this rare glimmer into her young adulthood that I had never heard about before. And so I did take the opportunity then to really ask her questions about it, and learn more about her. But it is something I say to a lot of people today is don't waste a single precious moment with your mom. You talk to your mom every day. I did not have that relationship with my mom. I was, doing my thing. And I definitely regret not learning more about my mom and not understanding who she was and never being able to see her as an adult woman that could shape me and give me advice and teach me and lend herself to me so that I don't have to make some of the mistakes that I have made. And hopefully I can be that for my daughter. But, it sounds like you have that great relationship that you're talking to your mom. So, keep digging, keep asking, keep finding out about your mom. And because, like you have said, she is contributing to you. She has a legacy just like your grandmothers do. And that we want to pass it on to the future generations because they were wonderful people. And we want to continue building our future, generations with these fantastic lessons and wisdom that they've shared with us. So it's really a gift. It truly is a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as I'm sitting here, it's funny because I think just this past year, I read an article that kind of it insinuated or, led me to think those same things. And it talked about, asking your parents about their early experiences and things like that. And it was funny because I think I just kind of dropped like a question here or there in conversations with my mom, and she was like, "Why are you asking?" And I was like, "Well, I'm just curious, But I think that it's I think I was surprised that in 38 years of my life, I had never asked those questions of my mother. Like, I mean, I literally talk to this person every single day, but I very rarely had asked her about her own experiences. Maybe because a lot of times I am seeing her as a support person. And so I'm constantly talking to her about, uh, oh, this is what's going on with me. What do you think? Making decisions in life. I really do rely on her so much so to be that support person. And I think over the years, I've learned that she can't be my only, only person I lean on, and that I have to, as I got older, as I got married, I lean on my husband more too, to just kind of make those decisions with him. But I was shocked that in this amount of time that I hadn't asked those questions. And so I started to ask them, and it really has kind of opened my eyes about, you know, how much do we really know about our parents or our grandparents, and how much can we learn. I think that, again, my both my grandmothers were so influential in my life, but I don't know that I can fully articulate what it that they did anything specific as much as they role modeled for me things that I want to be like. And so I think that there really is, whether it's through our words or our actions, I think that we all kind of carry that legacy on for the next generation. But we don't, I appreciate everything you said, because we don't really ask those questions, or I don't know, it wasn't a natural thing that I thought about. And then as I realized, I don't know about this person who raised me in a certain way based upon her own experiences and what she had gone through and the different trials and tribulations that she experienced that then formed who she was. And so I hope that I get the opportunity to continue to dive into that, because it is just such an interesting thing. But again, we're influenced by the people around us, regardless of all the things that we know about them. It's more I think it's more of what they lead by example, and the way that they make us feel, and the way that they show their love for us, or their attention, or whatever it is. I think that those are the people who you want to surround yourself with, because those are the people who make such a difference.
Absolutely agree. The one idea that I wanted to share with our listeners is that I had the privilege of working with a non-traditional healthcare model called Plaintree. And one of the things that they really recommended for sort of the elderly patient population who were in the hospital was to have a life story done. And what we did with that was, as they recommended, was to have some volunteers, some high school students come in and actually do a life story with our elderly patients, and that would become part of their medical record. And if the patient, when the patient got discharged, then that was given to the family, because that was a recording not of their medical health, but of their story of their life. And I know that a lot of families really treasured that life story, because it did give sort of a window into somebody's life that they would not talk about. And I know that the high school students who were partaking in that volunteering were also really changed by that experience, because when you're talking about somebody's life over 80 years and what they were like and what the history was when they were youngsters and how they have now evolved into current day, you get a little bit of an understanding for why, what they've gone through. And like you said, the trials and tribulations, as well as the happy days. And so that's something I think every family should do for their loved one who is older, to write down those. We keep our recipes and we keep our family traditions. I think we should keep our family stories as well. And so it's a great idea. It's something that I hope to do in the future with other people in my life that are important. But I did also want to talk about one more person. This is an emerging hero for me. And it's my aunt, and her name is Tracy Mancy, but her name is Teresa, and she's an emerging hero to me, because she took a picture of she's been a NICU nurse her whole career. So she's been a NICU nurse for, I don't know, I want to say like maybe 40 years. And she's worked at the same hospital since she came to the US. She, like my mom, came to the US when she was young. She was unmarried. So she really came into sort of the unknown completely on her own. And her and my mom became good friends when they were early in their careers. My mom was older than her, and had a husband and two children and stuff like that in India. But she is amazing to me. Last week, she took a photo. She posted a photo on our family chat of herself with her team, her day team for the NICU. And these women are so much younger than her. And she just made a comment that they call her mother, and they give her that respect because she's older than them. She's probably in her 70s now, and she's still working. She lost her husband, my uncle, a couple years ago. And she really, I mean, that's her purpose, is to go to work and take care of those babies. But what I saw in that photo was a woman who was mentoring other women. And that was so beautiful to me, that somebody would call a non-related person at a work site something so personal as mother. On one hand, you could be like, oh, why are they calling somebody who's not their mom? But what I saw it was a sign of respect for the way this woman is, and the fact that she does teach and mentor and role model and is always there to support these young women who are newer in their careers. And to me, women being mentoring other women um, is a huge, I don't know, like it's one of those things that I really look up to, because I think it's so important, and it's going to be a future topic of ours for sure. It's on our list that I contributed before, which is like the queen bee kind of syndrome, and how women are always put in that kind of a role that if you're a leader, if you're, a position of power, you're going to take it into the negative direction. Well, here's a fantastic example of a career woman who is, leaning in and giving women that she is working with all the positivity and the mentoring and the opportunity to rise in their careers and to be shaped by a very strong leader driven woman, which I just am so proud of my aunt, because she does that. And she is that way in real life as well. I mean, she's a wonderful, caring woman, who took care of me and my brothers when we were younger. And we were a handful, she always reminds us. But, to be that age and to be a career for 40 years and to still raise women every day to be the best nurses that they can be, to me is just an amazing accomplishment. And hats off to my aunt for still going into work, number one, and taking care of those high risk babies, but also doing it with a smile on her face and finding it within her to lend a hand to younger women who she's bringing up next to her. So she's my newest and most recent emerging hero in my life, and really shed some enthusiasm and optimism for me in my career. So I also wanted to share that, because as we've been talking about sort of how difficult it is to pinpoint who are these heroes in our life, now I feel like they're coming to me, because I think you've got to sort of chew on it for a while. I mean, it's not an easy topic to think about, because not everybody can be a hero, and you don't want to take anything away from people who are heroic. But at the same time, I think that's what I was calling to action is that don't let these heroic women be in your blind spot. Bring them up to the forefront and really, squeeze every learning and wise word and new way of looking at things really impact you, because it's there for your taking. So I share that with all of our listeners, including our younger listeners who are in their 20s and 30s, who have a whole life and a career or family relationships to lean on, and use women as sounding boards, as Elisa does with her mom, as well as, people who are looking for mentors and leaders to lean on at work. And so I think they're everywhere. They're around us. You just sort of have to ask for these women to become more present in your life. And most women are always willing to help out, lend a helping hand. So I really enjoyed this topic. It made me very excited and passionate, but also very grateful for the women I have in my life, people who've left their mark on me, who are no longer with me, as well as women who are with me that I can take advantage of every single day. So I don't know if you want to have any final words, Alyssa, but or share any thoughts that you have.
I'm just gonna say, like, I was listening to what you were saying, and I think that just like you were saying, I think that now that we're having this conversation, my wheels are turning. I'm thinking, oh, I could probably name 10 more people just in my inner circle currently that really I admire, or that I look up to, or that I'm so glad they're in my life. And I think that kind of speaks to something I heard more recently. And I don't know if it was in one of our conversations or maybe just in passing with somebody else, but really the people that you surround yourself with, I think, have a very significant impact on who you are as a person. And so really, as you outside of your family, talking about the friends that you keep and the people that you surround yourself with, if you're surrounding yourself with other driven women who have their head on straight and they know what they're going for and what they're doing, and they create a positive atmosphere, I think that that's also going to propel you into that same circumstance. And I think that that's something that, again, I'm kind of evolving and moving into that now, where I'm choosing who I want to have in my inner circle and the people that I want to surround myself with, because I want to have that kind of community in which I feel like I'm contributing, but also other people are contributing to me, or, impacting me in a positive way. So I think that, if you haven't already looked around at the people who are around you and not necessarily do you have to make any drastic changes, but maybe finding more women who are moving in the direction that you want to, or that influence you in a positive way. I think that that's worth considering, because, we've just talked about just a few people that are in our inner had such a significant impact on that. As we continue to grow and evolve, that there's going to be many, many more women and men and just people, everyday heroes who are going to impact us in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I share all those thoughts. And I read a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And one of the things the author talks about, and I'm sorry, I don't have the author's name off the top of my head, but that author talks about creating a panel of advisors and surrounding yourself with women who are, or advisors, not just women, but advisors that are going to give you very good, critical thinking, advice, and feedback. Most of us are attracted to people who are going to agree with us. But what she said was to create a panel of advisors that gave you objective, constructive feedback that is going to propel you towards your goals. Because sometimes our friends are not going to give us constructive feedback. They're our friends. They want to support us. But sometimes you need that neutral person who's going to tell you what you don't expect to hear. And that's what I'm hearing you say. And so the more you surround yourself with people who can give you that feedback, the better off you will be in the long run. And so, very, very great way to end this episode for sure. And I wanted to remind people, subscribe to us, share this podcast with your friends. Please drop us a note at the deconstructedwomen@gmail.com. And please join us on our Facebook group, which has got the same exact name, because I promise you we will be having great discussions and feedback, taking polls and looking for people to lead discussions and interact with us in a different way. So for Alyssa and I'll say goodbye for today and hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening to our podcast, The Deconstructed Woman. If you liked this podcast, please share it with your friends, rate this episode, or subscribe to be notified of all new content. We want to hear from you, our listener. Do you have thoughts on the discussions we're having? Want to share topic suggestions, or want to join us for a topic that you're passionate about? Contact us at our email address, thedeconstructedwoman@gmail.com.